dive into the papers again now. Here with me reviewing them this morning are the political editor of HuffPost UK, Kevin Schofield, and the broadcaster Pete Price. So welcome back to both of you. We're delving inside this hour, aren't we? And Pete, you're kicking off with Boris Johnson's Daily Mail column, and today he's targeting Rishi Sunak's smoking announcement this week.
He's denounced it as balmy, the smoking ban, which he said is going to distract police from attending proper crimes, which, for the first time ever, I might agree with Boris in a little way. Let's stop telling people what to do. In the conference speech, Mr. Sunak announced plans for those aged 14 or younger to be banned from ever legally buying cigarettes, leading to the eventual eradication of the habit. In principle, great idea. Totally and utterly impossible to do. How can the police possibly police something like this? And then, in that equation, where does vaping come in? Because vaping has taken over from cigarettes, it is frightening. And it seems, and it appears to be more addictive than smoking.
You don't ever see any young kids smoking, do you? You don't ever see them with cigarettes.
No, that's true. I mean, obviously the mission is a very healthy one, as Pete says, to try to eradicate smoking. But you have got that odd situation, haven't you, where there'll be some adults, when they get to adult age, who will be banned from smoking effectively, won't be able to buy cigarettes. And
he does make that point, actually, and you're right. I do also find myself in a unusual position of agreeing with him on this point, that in years to come, you're going to have adults who can legally buy cigarettes and adults who can. And how do you police that? How do shopkeepers, do they ask for ID of someone who's
I guess
in
so.
their
You'd ask for ID
40s?
for alcohol, I guess. Maybe
But it'd be odd to have to do it with someone in their 40s, 50s.
You'll get somebody else to buy them for you. See, when you two were children, I used to go in the cinema to see X films being taken in by somebody as pretend, you know, it's my son. You got in. So somebody goes in and buys cigarettes. But my friend has given up smoking, helped with vaping, and now is completely addicted to vaping.
And we don't know what the health ramifications of vaping are yet.
They would say that they are less
Which we
risky.
didn't know with cigarettes years ago.
Let's move on, Kevin, and apart the fact that Boris Johnson has a habit of criticising some of Rishi Sunak.
He might have an agenda there, perhaps.
That does happen a few times. In The Guardian, you picked out a story about the Met Police and children.
Yeah, I mean, this is really alarming. So this is the police inspectorate that have carried out a report, and they've brought forward their initial findings because they are so shocking. They're pointing out that for some reason Met police officers are not realising the significance of missing children and their vulnerability to exploitation. So a lot of drug gangs, people who sexually abuse children will prey on missing kids, and they're making the point here that that the force must make sure that it is focused on the risks to children, and the officers and staff are also equipped to deal with those risks. But you would have thought, surely, that the police already knew that potentially, particularly kids who are missing, are going to be preyed upon by nefarious actors like those who want to use them for drug dealing or who want to prey on them sexually. And it's really alarming that this already doesn't happen.
I think it's incredibly sad, because 50 years of a late-night phone-in, I've dealt with lots of missing children, and each case is completely different. A lot of them don't want to be found, but I'm sure, I think it's quite scurrilous, this, in a way, because I'm sure the police know exactly how vulnerable children are.
Okay, let's take us on to a totally different subject.
Yes.
Pete, talk about gear change. We're talking about barbecues back in October.
This is for today, because this weekend we're apparently going to have the most ridiculous weather. Supermarkets...
not in Scotland.
Yeah, not in Scotland.
Certainly not in Scotland. There'll be no barbecues up there.
So supermarkets are rushing millions of sausages, burgers and chicken legs into the stores because they are expecting a complete barbecue day today. Tesco's are expecting to sell 1.5 million tubs of ice cream, but the weather is crazy. You don't know what to wear anymore. I brought a coat down with me to come and do this, I will not be wearing a coat when I go out. It's warm already. So are we going to be barbecuing today? It's just October meat wave.
Yeah.
Is that a great headline?
Yeah, I mean, unusually high temperatures. And then
odd.
we've got weather warnings in Scotland with torrential rain.
Well, people being warned, don't get on the train to Scotland because the trains are disrupted.
No, a lot of the trains are disrupted.
Because the weather's so bad.
Because of the weather.
And yet we had such a weird summer. June, July, the weather was rubbish.
Lots of people didn't barbecue in July because they couldn't.
Bizarre.
So now
Yeah.
they're getting the Barbies out today and playing Neighbours in the background.
Dust them down and get them out. Okay, let's turn now to the Eye, and this is a story picked up by a couple of the papers. Talking to Angela Rayner just in the last few minutes about this, actually,
Yeah.
the deputy leader of the Labour Party, and this is their plan, they say, to fix the housing crisis. What do you make of what they're suggesting?
Yeah, I mean, there is undoubtedly a housing crisis in this country, and that contributes to soaring rents for people just because there isn't the supply of properties anymore. The problem that politicians have, they all promise to build more houses, but then when the reality kicks in and local communities object to planning applications, then lo and behold, where there's votes at risk, politicians tend to roll back. Well, we've seen it already with the government. They dropped centrally imposed targets. So Labour see an opportunity here and say that they will do it. I'll wait and see. We all expect Labour to win the next election. In particular, they're talking about building on the green belt. Now, that's the type of thing that gets lots of local communities up in arms. There are bits of land that aren't what you'd sort of classify as traditional green belt and rolling fields, what have you, but they are classed as green belt, and I think that those bits of land could be used for property development. But as I say, it's local communities get very vexed about the idea that there's going to be huge housing estates near them.
The other thing that bothers me is in Liverpool, I remember them getting rid of the council houses when we had the principle to buy your own house. They had to get rid of an awful lot of council houses because they weren't getting the rents. The rent arrears were horrendous. And that's a big problem to get the money in. So yes, you build this affordable housing and then you can do council house renting, but getting the money in is difficult.
But there's no doubt that it needs to be done.
Oh, it's got to be
we don't have enough. We don't have enough houses.
Yeah, and the
in this
impact
country.
on everyone who does have a house is felt, as you say, in terms of the cost. If you want,
Absolutely.
Of course, people watching now will be also angry
Which
that
impacts on
a lot of people are coming into this country and being housed, and our own people are not being housed.
Well, that's a whole different discussion, isn't it?
But I thought I'd throw that in.
Yeah, why not? Okay, and we'll hear more discussion of this because that will be announced.
Become a huge issue in the election campaign as well,
exactly.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Take us on, though, Pete, to the Savile drama. This is the BBC's programme called The Reckoning, is that right? It's basically
called The Reckoning.
Jimmy Savile
and it's Steve Coogan playing the part.
That's right.
We were talking before, he's a great impressionist, so it will be an amazing piece of theatre. But we spoke about it last week when it was first broken, the story. I don't believe that it should be played, but people will watch it in their droves. The BBC have defended the decision to scrap the Newsnight investigation into the Jimmy Savile in its drama about the life of the disgraced presenter. After the death, the BBC faced criticism after dropping the Newsnight investigation, exposing Savile because they started showing good stories about him. And so what is going to be, it's been left out of this drama. And now ITV is saying, and people are saying, why has it been left out of it?
Yeah, and I know that Charlotte Moore from the BBC says the show doesn't shy away from examining the way the corporation failed to deal with rumours. We're out of time for this hour. We will see you again in the next. I know, it always happens at the end. That's what I say, but I do say thank you as well. See you in a bit.